All of humanity was transported into an apocalypse survival game. Everyone went crazy fighting to choose superpowers, only I chose endless money. Everyone laughed at me, saying I was out of my mind. They said cash would be nothing but waste paper in the apocalypse. But what did they know? Zombies were never the real danger. The living people with superpowers were the truly terrifying ones. As the system prompt sounded, I and 300 other players were thrown straight into the game. All players have been confirmed dead in the real world. If you want a chance to come back to life, you must survive in this apocalypse game until the very end. Then came the phase for choosing starting items. I roughly scanned the items on the shelf. They were basically all kinds of superpowers. The other players rushed for them like mad. I went straight to the last page of the list. At the very bottom, I saw a gold coin labeled Endless Wealth. Without thinking twice, I took the coin. Class monitor Joe Furin, who entered with me, saw me take the gold coin. He immediately started mocking me. Lin Yunxi, are you really that obsessed with money? The end of the world is coming. What use could money possibly have? Before I could explain, he turned to look at the class beauty. Su Zhenzhen, what about you, Zhenzhen? I can make every human fall in love with me. Even zombies will develop feelings for me. With true love protecting me, there is no way I will die. After all the items had been snatched up, the system sounded again. All players will be given 1 year to train their abilities and complete pre-battle preparations. Apocalypse mode will officially begin 1 year from now. This game will produce only one final winner, only the player who survives, until the very end will be eligible for the final prize. After hearing that rule, everyone's faces changed instantly. Those who had agreed to form alliances now looked at each other with suspicion. In this survival game, there was no such thing as friends, everyone was an enemy. Next, the system teleported us to random locations in the game world. Without another word, I immediately began my apocalypse survival plan. After searching the world map 3 times, I finally found a small island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. The island was just the right size. It was perfect for building a shelter. It was also extremely far from the mainland, basically an isolated island. It was not on an earthquake belt, not in a storm corridor, and had no volcano. Yet it had a natural flatland, perfect for building an airport. It was surrounded by green mountains, which could serve as cover, so I got to work. I spent 1 billion to buy the island. I named it Future Island. I told outsiders it was a tourism project. I bought 10 large cruise ships, then signed construction contracts with NPC companies. I shipped construction vehicles and building materials to the island in one go. The executives of those companies all signed confidentiality agreements with me. They had no idea where Future Island was. Once the cruise ships reached Future Island, the workers began building the airport. I bought 100 planes and used charter flights to send construction workers to Future Island in batches. The workers built day and night. To prevent Future Island from being located, I installed jammers in advance. I also collected all the workers' phones. I built 10 solid fortresses on the island. Every material met the highest standards. They could withstand magnitude 12 earthquakes. All of these fortresses were camouflaged. Satellites could not see them at all, but those were only distractions. The real apocalypse fortress was hidden underground. The underground fortress could withstand nuclear strikes and biological attacks. Even if there were zombies that could burrow, they could not dig through 5-meter thick steel walls. The surface fortresses had secret passages leading underground, but the passages were extremely narrow, only wide enough for one person, and they were like a maze. Even if someone got lucky and found the right path to the fortress gate, they might not survive all the traps along the way. If any secret passage was blown up, I could still return to the surface through another one. Otherwise, the underground fortress would become my living coffin in the apocalypse. Energy would be critical. To solve the energy problem, I installed wind power on the island, as well as tidal and nuclear power. I built 5 nuclear power plants. 2 large ones were for regular use. The others, 1 large and to medium-sized plants, were backups. The 3 large and to medium-sized nuclear power plants were spread across underground and seabed sites. There were also biogas digesters underground. I prepared hand crank generators too, and stored a huge batch of batteries and diesel just in case. The water problem was easy to solve too. I installed rainwater collectors and seawater desalination equipment. I also dug wells and installed groundwater purification systems. They could purify contaminated apocalypse water until it was safe to drink directly. There were also high-temperature instant sterilization, low-temperature instant sterilization, ultraviolet sterilization, chemical sterilization, and all kinds of wastewater treatment systems designed specifically to handle sewage from the underground fortress. Considering the possibility of flooding, the walls were all waterproofed. The security doors were completely airtight. The underground drainage system was extremely powerful. I installed several air purification systems, ensuring plenty of clean air underground. I also stocked up 100,000 oxygen tanks for use only in the most desperate situation. The underground shelter was divided into 12 zones. Even if one or two zones malfunctioned, the others could still operate. Every zone had its own purpose. 3 of them used the latest automated farming technology to grow vegetables and raise fish and chickens. 2 zones stored enough supplies to last me 10 years. Medicine, food, and water. Other zones had bedrooms, a kitchen, dining room, entertainment room, gym, bathrooms, medical facilities, and more. Whenever the NPCs became suspicious of my project, I used money to shut them up. For the sake of earning more, they worked even harder. Money, I could spend it however I wanted. It never ran out. I went to America and bought a huge batch of heavy weapons, including mobile combat robots and obstacle-clearing robots. With enough money, I even used unofficial channels to get to nuclear warheads. In one bay, I also hid a nuclear submarine and an aircraft. The underground fortress had a passage leading directly there. I hired 2 instructors to train me every day to pilot the submarine and the aircraft. To prevent players with abilities from reaching the island, I had people place a huge number of artificial reefs. Far from the island, any large ship that approached would hit the reefs and sink. Closer in, I set up an electric fence around the entire island. I buried explosives along the coastline and installed radar. It could detect anything approaching the island. If needed, the defenses would shoot it down. I also set up a giant electric net in the sky, so virus-carrying birds could not land on the island. After spending a year, the island's entire defense system was complete. Of course, to confuse my opponents, I also launched high-profile tourism developments in other places around the world, so other players would not notice anything strange. I also prepared several backup shelters. If necessary, I could reach any backup site by plane without needing to refuel. After sending off the last batch of NPCs, I was the only person left on the island. I then spent more money to buy out the space exploration company. I took control of all 6,122 satellites in space, making sure my network signal stayed online. During that year, I also acquired airlines and shipping companies all over the world. In the final week, I ordered all planes and ships to be gathered and destroyed. The whole world knew that the richest man had gone insane, destroying every long-distance vehicle. The NPCs all said the richest man had lost his mind. Only the players understood that this global billionaire was also their competitor. A small window suddenly popped up in the player chat. Joe Furin asked me, "Lin Yunxi, is that global billionaire you?" Only he had seen that I chose the unlimited wealth option. I ignored him. 1 week later, the apocalypse really arrived. Those players who had trained their powers to the limit were all itching for a fight. The names and numbers of 300 players appeared on the public screen. I was no 99, Joe Furin was no 100, Su Zhenzhen was no 101, system, attention. The apocalypse has begun. This game will continue running until only one player remains. No one expected the apocalypse to descend in the form of overwhelming rain. From north to south, long periods of intense rainfall triggered catastrophic flooding. It was like the great prehistoric flood from mythology. The waters surged violently. Future Island also had heavy rain, but since the island was small, the rain stopped after 2 days. I did not even have time to hide in the underground fortress. All those ability users were dumbfounded. System, in a flood like this, what use are our powers? Exactly, system, you are playing dirty. The world public chat exploded. System, did I ever say? The apocalypse had to be a zombie virus. Everyone fell silent. Except me. When everyone else arrived in this world, they had almost no assets. For the past year, they had trained their abilities while trying to make money. The supplies they worked themselves to death stockpiling were very limited. Only a few players who used their powers for illegal activities managed to get villas and build shelters in the basements, but once the flood came, the basements were the first to be submerged. All their supplies were ruined. The entire villas were swallowed by the flood. Some players had built shelters in underground parking lots. Those were all filled with water too. High-rise shelters were temporarily safe, but the rain kept falling non-stop. The players did not have many supplies to begin with, and they were nearly exhausted. Everyone panicked. Meanwhile, I was eating tripe hot pot while watching live streams. The room was filled with the aroma of beef tallow hot pot. I saw a streamer hiding behind the curtains, secretly filming the building across from him. A player was using his ability to rob people. He was burning things everywhere with fire. Guys, this is not special effects or cosplay. This is a real ability user. He used to be a security guard in our neighborhood. Now he is using fire to break down doors. This is already the 10th home he has robbed. The livestream comments flew by. Damn, ability users are real? Does that mean the apocalypse is really coming? Streamer, be careful. After he finished looting that building, he will come to yours. Call the police, hurry. After finishing the hotpot, I burped in satisfaction. I showered, shaved, and kept watching the livestream. That fire-wielding player alerted the NPCs. A large group of SWAT officers rushed into the compound on rescue boats. They surrounded the building with guns raised. The streamer's hands shook with excitement. Guys, this is the first time in my life seeing a gunfight. That security guard's fire is too powerful. He melted the big iron gate in seconds. The SWAT team rushed into the building. Gunfire rang out everywhere. Countless windows shattered from the flames. Explosions sounded one after another. Suddenly, a figure flew out from the rooftop and fell straight into the flood. Not long after, on the game's public screen, I saw one player's name turn gray. That meant he was dead. At that moment, Joe Furin came looking for me in the player chat again. Joe Furin, Lin Yunxi, let's form an alliance. Joe Furin, we were classmates. And our numbers are next to each other. We can survive to the end together. Joe Furin, you must have seen my messages. Reply to me. My mind control ability is extremely strong. You do not have a power. When the time comes, I can help you deal with other players. He kept sending me video call requests. I still ignored him. Ally with him? When only the two of us were left, he would use mind control to take me down and become the only winner himself. Was he underestimating my brain or overestimating his own? Water and power were cut off. Food was almost gone too. 3 months of flooding completely washed away the NPC's hope. At last, some people could not hold on anymore and began smashing, looting, and burning. The players mixed in, trying to find a way out. But how could powers be hidden? Soon, they alarmed the authorities. The higher-ups directly issued arrest warrants for ability users. Any ability user caught would be sent to a research institute. Within 1 month, 30 players disappeared from the public screen. For a while, all the players were like startled birds, fearing for their lives. I, however, seemed to be in a different world from them. Every day, I walked around the island and sunbathed, checked how the vegetables were growing, and inspected the submarine and aircraft. At dusk, I did yoga on the beach, then went back for a lobster feast. Sometimes I played games in my mansion, sometimes I swam laps in the pool. Future Island was practically a paradise beyond the world. I lived very comfortably, but the good days did not last long. Someone still sold me out. Someone posted an anonymous message on the world public screen. Player No 99 is the global billionaire. Before the apocalypse, he must have built a shelter. As long as we find No 99, all of us can survive. The public screen, silent for a long time, instantly exploded. I saw the news. I already guessed the billionaire was a player, but I did not know who exactly. So it was No 99. No 99. Come out and say something. You are living in luxury alone, watching hundreds of us suffer. Aren't you too cruel? Exactly, a player like that should be eliminated. If we find No 99, we can survive. Brothers, charge. Kill No 99, and every player gets a share. They wanted to skin me alive. I only wanted to quietly outlast you all, yet you insisted on dragging me out. I flexed my wrists and typed a message on the public screen. Everyone, stop arguing. I am No 99. If you want shelters, I can give them to you. But but what? Hurry up and say it. Stop keeping us guessing. If you do not speak, we will come find you, take all your things, and kill you. I smiled and continued typing, but I only built shelters in China, America, Germany, and Denmark. Each shelter can hold no more than 20 people. I marked for locations on the map. There are more than 200 of you now. There is no way they can fit everyone. Please, everyone. I will tell you the shelter passwords. First come, first served. Please do not come hunt me down. As soon as I sent the passwords, all the players exploded. As long as they reached a shelter quickly, they could survive the flood. I rubbed my sore neck, closed the player interface, and got ready to wash up and sleep. I believed tomorrow would surely be another wonderful day. In just one night, some players had already reached the shelters. Most of them had rapid movement abilities. The shelters were built on high ground, so the flood could not reach them. Once they opened the shelter doors, going inside was like entering heaven. After all, these 4 shelters of mine were built incredibly grand. They had everything inside. The freezers were packed with frozen food. No 58 proudly started a live stream on the world public screen. I did not expect this shelter to be so well built. Having money is amazing. They ate steak and lamb legs while drinking red wine. The table was completely full. 12 people have already entered the shelter. No, 58 said. Everyone here has unanimously decided to close this shelter in China. Resources are limited, the rest of you should not come. The other players still on the road saw the live stream and cursed in rage. Outside the shelter, players kept arriving. Rather than being drowned by the flood or starving to death, they had to grab this lifeline. Their survival instinct drove them to beg the people inside to open the door and let them in. But the players inside had already locked the main door. No matter how the people outside smashed the door and walls, even using their abilities, they could not shake that solid door. The players inside were feeling smug when I suddenly appeared and said, "Didn't I say it could hold 20 people? Can't 8 more people still enter? I also have a forced entry password." Even if they close the door, there is another way in. The hidden door is in the southeast corner. Turn the carved brick at the base of the wall, and the hidden door will appear. No, 58 was furious. No, 99, stop causing trouble. The players outside immediately rushed to the hidden door and turned the carved brick. Sure enough, a hidden door opened in the old city wall. The players desperately pushed their way inside, all to fight for the remaining 8 spots. They were afraid they would not get in. The players outside erupted into fierce conflict over the limited spaces. The scene fell into chaos. The players inside the shelter could no longer sit still. They were all rapid movement types, so their combat power was clearly lacking. If they did not close the door soon and high combat players charged in, wouldn't they be trapped like turtles in a jar? The 2 combat type players who had just rushed in also realized this. They immediately formed an alliance and started dealing with the people outside. Amid the chaos, the death count on the public screen began to rise. I rubbed my temples and pulled up the surveillance feeds from the other 3 shelters. Human nature is the same everywhere. Outside the other 3 shelters, they were fighting just as fiercely. I stared coldly at the number on the public screen. In all the surveillance feeds, I couldn't find Joe Furin anywhere. Right, why would he go to a shelter? As luck would have it, Joe Furin happened to message me. Joe Furin Yunxi. Even without an alliance, look how perfectly we work together. We were born to be on the same side. Have you no shame? You exposed my identity and put me over the fire. Joe Furin, don't be so angry. If I hadn't come up with this idea, how would those players willingly go die? You should thank me for reducing your competition. While we were chatting, the shelters were full and the gates closed automatically. Outside the shelters, those who couldn't get in were still making their final struggle. The players inside were celebrating. They had no idea what was waiting for them. I smiled. I said to Joe Furin, "You aren't inside a shelter. What a shame." Then I pressed the button. The 1,000 tons of explosives buried beneath the shelters instantly turned into a sea of fire. After the explosion, the number of players dropped by 116. Only 91 players remained alive. After a long while, Joe Furin finally sent me a message. "I underestimated you. I thought you were an easy-to-bully nerd. Thanks for the assist. Otherwise, it really wouldn't have been easy to gather so many players at the shelters. The players most likely in the whole world to reach Future Island without planes or ships were gone. Since a year ago, I'd been thinking about how to wipe them all out at once. Those shelters were their graves. The shelter explosions couldn't possibly make the news so quickly. The other surviving players had no idea what had happened, but Joe Furin knew immediately. That meant he was somewhere near the shelters, watching everything from afar. Congratulations, you are the player with the most kills. You receive 1 extra reward. We look forward to your brilliant performance. When I saw that reward, I couldn't help laughing. So the apocalypse had always been survival of the fittest. The players weren't terrified by others' deaths. Instead, they were happy there were fewer competitors. The rain would stop one day. For months later, the floodwaters slowly receded. The submerged land emerged again. The sun rose once more, shining on the devastated earth. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. They thought the disaster was finally over. But they didn't expect the flood to bring a plague. Many dead NPCs began to mutate. You have cleared stage 1, Apocalypse Flood. Next is stage 2, Apocalypse Zombies. Didn't you say last time there were no zombies? Go back and read carefully. I never said the apocalypse definitely had no zombies. Now this is interesting. Aren't zombies even better? That no, 99 can only wait to be slaughtered. It's finally our turn to rise up. Su Zhenzhen sent me a private message. Lin Yunxi, you have no ability. You won't survive the zombie apocalypse. If you share some supplies with me and tell me where you are, I can come protect you. I slowly typed a question mark. Su Zhenzhen, of course I knew how she had survived. She relied on her being loved ability to trick her neighbors out of all their supplies. When the rescue team arrived, she was the first to be rescued. All along, she used her being loved ability and took others caring for and worshipping her for granted. She stole other people's chances to live. When the rescue boat passed a half-submerged building, a baby's cry came from inside. The rescuers wanted to go check, but Su Zhenzhen hugged the man driving the boat. "Sir, my heart hurts so much. I can't hold on. Can we leave quickly?" It's okay. We're leaving right now. Sorry, I'm not interested in filthy things. Besides, Su Zhenzhen knew I was the richest man. That definitely wasn't a coincidence. The zombie crisis erupted across every continent. After the flood came the zombie crisis. Every country's social system collapsed instantly. Low-level zombies weren't hard to deal with, but the virus spread too aggressively. After repeated transmission, mutations began to appear. Just as I had expected, intelligent zombies and ability-wielding zombies quietly emerged. The players realized they would die without alliances. They began forming groups and building bases to resist zombie attacks. But the bases had to fight not only zombies, but also each other, plundering supplies and territory, facing the zombie virus. I had to install steel nets in the ocean to stop infected fish from reaching Future Island. I also raised electric nets in the sky to stop birds from landing. The sunlight grew somewhat dim. On rainy days, I hid in the underground fortress. Only after machines tested the rainwater as safe would I dare go outside. The land-based network had long been destroyed, and PCs could only rely on radio to pass messages. But I didn't need such ancient equipment. The thousands of satellites in the sky let me observe Earth in real time. Just as I predicted, birds could carry the virus. When the virus reached fragile island nations, entire islands instantly became hell on Earth. One country after another vanished from the apocalyptic map. Despair spread everywhere. My mood became heavy too. The horrors of the apocalypse were too suffocating. I desperately wanted to go home. The number of players kept decreasing. This time, it dropped to 30. An uninvited guest arrived at Future Island, a mutated bird. As soon as it flew over Future Island's waters, it crashed into the electric net. It was instantly burned into char by the high voltage. But one feather slipped through the net. It drifted down through a gap in the electric net before it could reach the ground. A robot dog blasted it with a pillar of fire and burned it to ash. That bird must have flown over from another island nation in the Pacific. From that day on, large numbers of birds passed over Future Island every day. The electric nets were covered with bird carcasses. The robots were extremely busy, patrolling the whole island, burning bird corpses with flames, and cleaning the electric nets. If even Future Island was like this, it showed how severe things were elsewhere. I stopped walking on the beach every day and decisively moved into the underground fortress. Today was New Year, but no one in the world had the heart to celebrate. Except me, rituals still mattered. I put Spring Festival couplets in the living room and hung Chinese knots. The dining table was filled with my favorite dishes. Of course, there was a plate of dumplings while eating New Year's Eve dinner. I played the last Spring Festival Gala before the apocalypse. No matter the era, money always lets you live better than most. That is an unchanging truth. I thought of my old home, my mother who loved me, my dependable father, and my kind grandparents on both sides. Every Spring Festival, we would reunite. Mom and Dad would prepare a lavish meal. After dinner, I would get a pile of red envelopes. Now I was all alone. Pain inevitably filled my heart. The me in the real world had died. How heartbroken must they be? No matter how comfortably I lived in the apocalypse, it couldn't compare to the warmth of my own home. I had to go back. I had to become the sole winner. I took a photo of my New Year's Eve dinner. The Spring Festival Gala was playing in the background. In the photo, I smiled with festive joy. Warm steam rose from the pot on the table. Then I sent the photo to Joe Furin. The next minute, Joe Furin posted my photo on the world public screen. I could imagine the players jumping in rage. Angry comments came flooding in. "No, 99, don't get too cocky." I didn't care and replied arrogantly, "I'll be waiting if you can find me." I opened the computer to review the 30 player profiles I had gathered before the apocalypse. My informants had long spread across the world. They precisely found players scattered everywhere and observed them for a long time. I knew every player's ability and weakness. After the apocalypse descended, the mercenaries survived because of the supplies I had stockpiled in advance. They continued to serve me, and I could unlock new supplies for them. Money can make the devil grind grain. In the apocalypse, supplies are the best currency. The world had now formed 3 major forces. The first force was the military. They had a powerful arsenal. Their base was impregnable. Joe Furin gained leadership through mind control. The second force was the zombie camp. A zombie king had already appeared among them. Through special means, he gained multiple abilities. Su Zhenzhen was by the zombie king's side too. She became his closest companion. No, 128 entered the world's most dangerous and most chaotic country. He used his ability to subdue the gangs. Under No. 128's leadership, The gangs grew by plundering civilians. The remaining 26 players all attached themselves to these three forces. No, 128 could manipulate gravity. It was an extremely powerful ability. In one-on-one combat, no player was his match. But the gang's power was actually fragile. I tapped No. 128's avatar with my pen. I'll start with you. There are currently 30 players alive. Next, the game's difficulty will increase. Entering Stage 3, Extreme Cold Continent. Everyone is already out of food, and now extreme cold weather? Everyone on this planet will die. System, can you at least act human? Sorry, this system is not human at all. Su Zhenjin secretly messaged me. Lin Yunxi, by then, only the zombie camp will survive on this planet, and I will survive too. You will regret rejecting me for the rest of your life. She sent a photo with the zombie king. In the photo, as the zombie king's abilities grew, his appearance became more and more human. Since that's the case, I'll send you lovers to heaven together. Extreme cold swept across the whole planet. Even my tropical island was affected. But in this apocalypse game, natural logic didn't really apply. A fierce blizzard struck Future Island. The sky's electric net was the first to suffer. The blizzard crushed the electric net. The wind and tidal power plants were badly damaged too. Fortunately, the underground fortress's backup nuclear plant was still running. The gangs were the first to collapse. They had nearly plundered all civilian resources. Internal conflicts intensified. Fighting broke out constantly. Ability users were eliminated one after another. Through the world window, I privately messaged No. 128. No. 128. How about we cooperate? I've buried a lot of supplies on your land. If you get them, you'll be able to survive. No. 128 quickly replied. What do you want? How can I trust you? I want you to deal with the zombie king. My scientists developed an anti-zombie serum. Spray it on zombies, and it will make them lose activity. You know my combat power is 0. After thinking it over, among the 30 ability users, you're the strongest. Only you can do this. Humans fear hunger and freezing weather. Zombies don't. The longer this drags on, the greater the zombie camp's chance of winning, no matter how many supplies I have. They'll run out one day. No. 101 beside the zombie king will become the final winner. To gain No. 128's trust, I sent mercenaries to deliver 1 dose of serum and a batch of supplies. I had already secretly sent famous scientists to an underground shelter. They threw themselves fully into research. Hard work pays off. The serum was finally developed. Now, I only needed No. 128 to act. The gang used that serum on zombies. The zombies quickly lost their threat. No. 128 was tempted. If only he and I were left, he could deal with me easily. To him, I was the weakest player. Allying with me was undoubtedly the best choice. No. 128 agreed on the spot. I casually replied, happy cooperation. I had long prepared a huge batch of supplies and the so-called zombie antidote. I hired mercenaries to airdrop these things at the agreed location. As soon as No. 128 got the goods, he immediately took action. He gathered all the ability users in the gang and launched an all-out attack on the zombie king's lair. Soon, a live broadcast appeared on the world public screen. The gang members all carried sprayers. They sprayed the pale blue serum at the swarming zombie horde. The zombies let out piercing roars. Their bodies were dissolving at a visible speed. In the end, all of them turned into puddles of smoking liquid. Someone on the public screen cried out in shock. Others frantically spammed praise for No. 128. Every player on the public screen was ecstatic. It was as if they had already seen the dawn of the apocalypses and No. 99. Did you see that? Once I deal with these monsters, you'll be next. Your wealth and your island will all be mine. I leaned back on the sofa, took a sip of coffee, and looked at the screen. I smiled faintly. Fools always die from their own arrogance. The battle was completely one-sided. No. 128 led the gangs forward unstoppably. Before long, they charged into the zombie king's core area. Just then, the zombie king appeared with Su Zhenjin. No. 128 sneered. He roared, and the ground beneath his feet shook violently. A huge slab of earth was forcibly ripped up by him. It was aimed at the heads of the zombie king and Su Zhenjin and slammed down hard. But at that critical moment, something suddenly changed. No. 128's face instantly went pale. His body hovering in midair swayed. He nearly fell down. The huge slab of earth he had lifted instantly lost control and crashed down with a bang. What's wrong with you? What's going on? My ability ... double quotes my ability is disappearing. Mine too. My flames are getting weaker. Panic instantly spread through the gang members. They discovered in horror that anyone who had touched the blue serum was rapidly losing their abilities. That thing wasn't a zombie antidote at all. It was something my scientists specially made. It could destroy zombies' biological structure. It could also break down the special gene sequences in ability users. Zombies would dissolve, ability users would lose their powers. The Zombie King clearly noticed the change too. He let out a thunderous roar. The zombie horde that had been suppressed charged forward again like mad. The entire battle instantly reversed. No, 99. You actually set me up, see? Without your abilities, how are you any different from ordinary people? Oh, right, I forgot to tell you, this antidote evaporates very fast. Anyone in the center of the battlefield will be affected. In the live feed, no, 128's gang fell into complete chaos. Without their abilities, before the endless zombie horde, they were just lambs waiting to be slaughtered. Su Zhenjin hid behind the Zombie King and sent me a message. Thank you for the generous gift. Once we finish things here, we'll visit your future island next. No need to thank me, the real show is still to come. Just as the gang was about to be wiped out, another force suddenly charged onto the battlefield. It was Joe Furin, but they didn't attack the zombies. Instead, they aimed their guns at No. 128 and his staff. No. 128, surrender your weapons and you live. No. 128's eyes burned red with rage. He tried to activate his ability again, but in the end, he only made the pebbles under his feet tremble. He lost completely. Joe Furin gave him no chance to turn things around. He directly activated mind control. After a burst of gunfire, No. 128's avatar on the public screen turned gray. The number of surviving players became 29. Joe Furin cleaned up the aftermath with ease. He absorbed the gang's remaining forces and supplies. He didn't linger in battle. He led his troops away from the battlefield quickly. The Zombie King also suffered heavy losses in this battle. He chose not to pursue them. The whole world temporarily returned to an eerie stalemate. Before long, Joe Furin sent me a private message. 2 birds with 1 stone. What a brilliant plan. You not only eliminated No. 128, you also weakened the Zombie King. Lin Yunxi, you're even scarier than I imagined. I replied, didn't you also profit as the fisherman? Joe Furin said, we are the most suitable allies. Join forces with me and deal with the Zombie King first. Then the 2 of us can settle the final outcome. That does sound good. But with your mind control, it's hard for me to trust you, I can swear. Before the last enemy falls, I will never use my power on you. I smiled at his message. In the apocalypse, oaths are thinner than paper. Fine, but you need to show sincerity first. What sincerity? I replied, I want Su Zhenjin dead. Su Zhenjin's love gaining power is too strange. With her beside the Zombie King, she's a huge variable. Joe Furin was silent for a while. Fine, within 3 days, you'll see her name turn gray. After ending the call with Joe Furin, I immediately pulled up Future Island's defense system monitors. The extreme cold was still going. The island's wind and tidal power systems had completely broken down. The aerial power grid was crushed by thick ice and snow, losing all function. Luckily, the underground nuclear plant still provided plenty of power, but holes in the defense had truly appeared. The peaceful days were probably ending. I immediately ordered the robot army to strengthen patrols across sea, land, and air. At the same time, I activated another defense system hidden under the sea. Countless miniature underwater robots formed a surveillance network. Anything trying to approach underwater couldn't escape my eyes. 2 days passed, there was still no movement from Joe Furin. Instead, Su Zhenjin contacted me first. In the video, she wore a gorgeous gown and sat on a throne piled with white bones. The Zombie King, Dengxi, knelt before her, devoutly kissing her fingers. Lin Yunxi, do you see this? For me, he's trying hard to become human again. The entire zombie empire will be my dowry. Joe Furin wants to kill me. How naive. The people he sent are all my new fans now, so you're showing off to me. No. I'm giving you one last chance to submit. I can make you a prince, beneath only me and above all others. Otherwise, when my army flattens Future Island, you'll die an ugly death. I cut off the video. This woman was completely lost in her queen fantasy. No wonder. Backed by the strongest power on the planet, she did have reason to be arrogant. But she miscalculated one thing. She thought my greatest reliance was wealth and technology. But she didn't know my real trump card had never been those things. On the 3rd day, Joe Furin finally messaged me. The plan failed. Su Zhenjin is far more cunning than we thought. Is that so? She seems able to foresee danger? I looked at the monitor feed, a cold smile tugging at my lips. On the screen, a tiny red dot was speeding toward Future Island. It was a small submersible, moving at incredible speed through a blind spot in my defenses. And the one piloting it was Joe Furin. What a good diversion. He pretended to work with me against Su Zhenjin to draw my attention. But in reality, he came personally, planning to strike me down. He probably thought that once he used mind control, everything on Future Island would be his. Joe Furin, you came after all. I lightly tapped the desk and brought up Future Island's 3D structure. The red dot representing his submersible was drilling through the defense gap I left on purpose. It was an abandoned undersea cable tunnel. He was silently sneaking in. He boldly thought no one knew, as if he'd found my weak point. I issued a command into the air. Tower, open. Dock No. 7, guide the target in. Received, Master. My voice carried through the dock bay speakers, clearly entering the submersible. Welcome to Future Island, player No. 100. The lights in the dock bay all lit up at once, turning the small stretch of water bright as day. The water level began dropping rapidly. His submersible was stranded directly on the dry well floor. In other words, he had been locked inside a sealed iron box. Inside the box, the hatch opened. Joe Furin stepped out. His face was ashen and terribly grim. He looked up at the surveillance cameras all around. Joe Furin gritted his teeth. You knew all along. He knew I was watching him. I prepared the best suite for you. How could I not know when my guest would arrive? I replied with a smile. My hologram appeared before him. I looked down at him from above. You think this can trap me? A strange light glowed in his eyes. An invisible mental field instantly spread out. Don't waste your effort. This dock bay is built with a special alloy. The inner walls are coated with a psychic barrier. Your power is a joke in here. Why don't we discuss a new partnership? I replied, I only invited you to my territory as a guest. After all, being outside in the wind and sun can't compare to my future island. Look, your troops are leaderless now, and Su Zhenjian's zombie army needs an outlet. Su Zhenjian will never miss this chance. I'll help you get rid of Su Zhenjian, then you hand over all military resources and survivors to me. After that, I'll send you off. A fair trade, isn't it? Joe Furin's face changed instantly. Of course he understood what I meant. Now that I had captured their commander, his army would surely fall into chaos. Su Zhenjian would never let this chance pass. I continued. Joe Furin roared. On the world chat, Su Zhenjian's global livestream suddenly popped up. In the feed, she still sat on that throne of white bones, but the zombie king beside her had completely changed. The blue-black lines on his body had fully faded. He had completed his evolution. All surviving players, let me introduce my beloved, the only god of the new world. Oh, right? I forgot to tell you something. Joe Furin's army has already sworn loyalty to me. The zombie king beside her was handsome like a god. Only those crimson eyes revealed his inhuman nature. The surviving players on the world chat fell dead silent. Joe Furin's army had been humanity's last large-scale line of defense against the zombies. But now, that line had defected. Su Zhenjian instantly became the biggest player in this apocalypse game. Joe Furin was pacing anxiously in the cell. The moment he saw the screen, his whole body froze. He screamed madly at the cameras. Looks like your control lost to her love. The color drained completely from Joe Furin's face. He collapsed to the ground, his eyes unfocused. Lin Yunxi, now all the power in the world is in my hands. Your little island, your wealth, will all be my trophies. Kneel or die. I smiled and directly closed her livestream. Then I sent Su Zhenjian a private message. Your dowry is generous. I like it. Su Zhenjian quickly replied, too bad it's too late. I replied, no. I mean, I'll be taking that dowry. Then I added, as a return gift, I'll give you a grand fireworks show. After sending the message, I connected another line. How is the Dawn plan coming along? Boss, 3 proofs of God have locked onto the target area. They can be deployed at any time. The so-called proof of God was an orbital kinetic weapon developed at massive cost by the space exploration company I bought. With immense kinetic energy, it could cause destruction comparable to a small nuclear bomb without producing any radioactive contamination. Boss, the proofs of God are ready. No interception possible, no warning possible. I lightly tapped the global map. The point I tapped was exactly the coordinates of Su Zhenjian and her zombie army. At that moment, the sky suddenly lit up. 3 pillars of light brighter than the sun tore through the gloomy clouds and descended from above. There was no sound and no shockwave. It was as if the whole world had been muted. The platform had vanished. Only a huge, smooth, glassified deep crater remained. The surrounding zombie army fell neatly to the ground like soulless puppets. The world chat fell into a dead silence for a full minute, then exploded completely. What was that? Was that a miracle? It was no, 99. It had to be him. At that moment, all surviving players finally understood what infinite wealth truly meant. On the player list, Su Zhenjian's name, along with the players under her command, all turned gray. I leaned back in my chair and let out a long breath. The world was finally quiet. Now only the military base remained, along with the players controlled by Joe Furin and a few lone wolves who were no threat. I looked at the devastated Joe Furin in the cell and pressed the call button. The game is almost over. As a classmate, I'll send you on your way. Lin Yunxi, if you kill me, you won't live long either. There are only a few of us left in the game. The system won't let us stay safe. You have no power. You're a sitting duck, I chuckled, my voice spread through the entire dock bay. You're right, the game really is almost over. So for the sake of our last bit of classmate bond, I'll let you leave with dignity. The air became scorching and thin at a frightening speed. His expression instantly shifted from shock to terror. Lin Yunxi, he let out a useless roar. Lin Yunxi, you lunatic, let me out. Lin Yunxi, you lunatic, let me out. I didn't look at him again, I cut off the surveillance feed. A few minutes later on the game public screen, the No. 100 avatar representing Zhou Furen quietly turned gray. The number of surviving players became 9. The whole world sank into unprecedented silence. The remaining players were all terrified. They all knew that a player relying on wealth and technology had slaughtered almost every ability user. This dead silence lasted 3 full days. Just when everyone thought they could breathe, the system's cold voice rang out again. Congratulations to the 9 players entering the final phase. Stage 3, Frozen Continent has ended. Stage 4, Blazing Sun Furnace now begins. As soon as it spoke, on the global monitor screen before me, the world map was rapidly covered in deep red, indicating extreme heat. The surface temperature was rising wildly at a visible speed. Glaciers melted instantly, then were completely evaporated. The oceans began boiling madly, raising towering waves that slammed into the already ruined land. The clouds in the sky were completely dispersed. The scorching sun baked the earth without any cover. Even Future Island, where I was heavily affected. The outdoor thermometer reading instantly broke past 100 degrees Celsius. Thankfully, my underground fortress had independent life support and temperature control systems. Inside, it was still cool as spring, but for the surviving players, life wasn't so easy. They had barely survived the hunger and cold. How are we supposed to play this? Outside is a pressure cooker. What shocked me was how fast players' avatars turned gray, faster than in any previous stage. In just one day, the number of survivors dropped from 9 to 4. At that moment, an unfamiliar number began appearing frequently on the public screen. That number was No. 7. Through my global surveillance system, I saw a strange sight. On a scorched plain in Europe, a man had conjured a massive ice crystal dome out of thin air. Under the dome was a small oasis, with a pleasant temperature. Relying on his own ability, he had forcibly created life inside the blazing sun furnace. Many surviving NPCs were bringing their families toward that ice crystal city. No. 7 was an ice-type ability user. Soon, the other 2 surviving players joined him too. A new force was rising at an astonishing speed. I leaned back in my chair, watching the screen with interest. Just as I was about to investigate No. 7 further, he came to me first. No. 99, I know you're there. Want to talk, boss? No. 7, why are you looking for him? He's a monster. No. 7 ignored him. He only waited quietly for my response. I tapped my finger lightly and opened a private communication channel. What do you want to talk about? There was no surprise on No. 7's face. He found a place to sit, his tone very calm. No. 7 said, I want to work with you. I replied, work together. Everyone on the public screen wants me dead. Why should I trust you? No. 7 smiled and spoke frankly. Because we are the only 2 who can still control our own fate, but you're trapped on your island. In this high heat, your robot army and high-tech weapons will be greatly weakened, and my foundation is shallow, my resources limited. I can't guard against your attacks from space either. His analysis was clear, every word went straight to the core. I replied, what's your plan? Simple. We form an alliance, clear out the last of players, then I'll help you solve the trouble outside your island. You provide me resources and security. We can jointly rule this broken world until the game ends, and after that, when only the 2 of us remain, we fight to the death. No. 7 said, exactly. But before that, we are each other's only ally. There aren't many people left in this world. Rebuilding civilization requires order. Rather than let the rest die in chaos, we should establish new rules. Lin Yunxi, you're a smart person. You should know this is the best choice for both of us. I looked at the screen at the ice crystal city glowing on scorched earth. I said, your proposal is interesting. No. 7 asked, your answer? I replied, I accept your proposal, but I set the rules. No. 7 said, of course. The strong make the rules, that's the only truth in the apocalypse. I said, good, those 2 players hiding under your protection, make them leave on their own. Our alliance doesn't need dead weight. Fine. No. 7 didn't hesitate at all. A few minutes later, through the surveillance feed, I saw the other 2 players, terrified and unwilling, be driven out of Ice Crystal City, then turn gray. I reconnected with No. 7. I said, now it's just us and 3 others. No. 7 asked, where are they? I brought up the global map and marked a red dot on a mountain range in South America. I said, I'll use satellites to release a high-frequency EMP to briefly disrupt their senses. What you need to do is, before they react, use your power to seal the cave completely. No. 7 asked, you want to bury them alive? I replied, the blazing sun furnace will finish the rest for us. It's the most efficient and safest method. No. 7 fell silent for a moment, seeming to assess the plan. No. 7 asked again, what about the last player? I zoomed in on the map. On the far side of the Pacific, I marked a lonely little island. Number 5, a lone wolf. His ability was plan control. On a deserted island, he had turned himself into a tree and gone dormant. After dealing with 23 and 45, we'll wake him. When do I act? I replied, now. Good. A glittering ice bridge rose under his feet, carrying him toward the mine entrance halfway up the mountain. I gave the order. A merciless pulse descended from space, covering the entire mining area precisely. Deep inside the mine, number 23, who had been resting, snapped his eyes open. A piercing buzz rang in his ears. His companion, number 45, also sensed something was wrong. But it was already too late. Icebound, a huge block of ice fell from the sky, instantly sealing the whole entrance. Then the entire mountain began to be buried in snow and ice, layer by layer. Until it became a giant ice tomb. I watched the screen quietly, waiting for the numbers on the public screen to change. But the number did not change at all. Instead, the system's icy prompt suddenly rang in every player's mind. System prompt, player alliance behavior detected. It has seriously affected game balance. System prompt, a new mode will now begin. Hunting hour. My heart lurched. System prompt, player 99, player 7. One of you will be randomly marked as the prey, and the other as the hunter. System prompt, the hunter must kill the prey within 24 hours. If the kill succeeds, they may seize one core asset or ability from the prey. System prompt, if the prey survives for 24 hours, they may seize the hunter's core asset or ability in return. System prompt, all other players will become spectators, unable to interfere and unable to be attacked. This damn system, it never wanted to see us cooperate. It only wanted to see us kill each other. My private channel with number 7 was forcibly opened. On the screen, number 7's face lost its calm for the first time. His brows were tightly furrowed. Clearly, this sudden change had disrupted him too. System prompt, marking begins. A huge roulette wheel appeared before us. There were only 2 numbers on it, 99 and 7. The pointer spun rapidly. My heart nearly jumped into my throat. If I were the hunter, I would have no chance of survival. All my weapons could not lock on quickly enough and kill a top ice ability user who could control ice freely. But if I were the prey ... the pointer gradually slowed. Finally, it trembled to a stop on 1 number. The air seemed to freeze solid in that instant. I looked at number 7 on the screen. He was looking at me too. Or rather, at the camera on my side. His eyes had changed. It was no longer an ally's appraisal, but a look mixed with regret, greed, and cold murderous intent. Seize a core asset, my infinite wealth, my satellite network, my future island. All of it was a fatal temptation to him. Number 7 slowly spoke, his voice carrying a strange magnetism. Number 7 said, Lin Yunxi, it seems our cooperation must take another form. The ice bridge beneath his feet began extending toward the ocean. He was coming. I took a deep breath and forced myself to calm down. I leaned back in my chair and said into the communicator, word by word, my island is not that easy to enter. Then I said, you're welcome to come here and die. I cut the communication. Then I pulled up Future Island's highest defense order. Command, activate Labyrinth Protocol. Labyrinth Protocol activated. All combat robots enter level 1 readiness. Nuclear submarines, prepared to lock onto all biological targets approaching from the surface or underwater. Take Joe Furin's body out of the purifier furnace and hang it at the dock. The cold mechanical voice immediately confirmed the order. Order confirmed. I wanted number 7 to know what would happen if he set foot on this island. On the sea, number 7 rode a glacier, approaching Future Island at shocking speed. Wherever he passed, the boiling seawater froze, forming a wide ice road. It stretched from South America straight toward the center of the Pacific. The scene was magnificent, like a miracle. The 2 players trapped in the ice tomb had been completely forgotten. All eyes in the world were focused on this system-directed hunt. I opened the global public chat. It had already exploded. Number 5 messaged, holy crap, the system can do this too. So exciting. Number 23 messaged, go, number 7. Kill that damned number 99. Number 45 messaged, kill him and we can get out. What, since when did they become live commentators? I'm here too, number 5 snorted. An ice battle on the sea under the scorching sun, so those people still were not dead. A layer of ice was temporarily keeping them alive. They had also become caged beasts in this hunt, unable to do anything. They yelled wildly over there. I ignored them. I stared at the monitor. In the image, the ice road kept extending forward. I silently calculated his advance speed and direction. This guy was much faster than I expected. At most, in 3 hours, he would reach Future Island's outer defense ring. I raised my hand and activated the sonar. The array had long been hidden on the seabed. Soon, a dataset came back. Report, Master. We detected the target beneath the ice layer, releasing a large number of micro-ice spikes. He is probing our underwater defense facilities. This number 7 was no reckless brute. Not only was he powerful, he was extremely cautious. He did not just charge in stupidly. Instead, he advanced steadily step by step, constantly testing what was real. I could not help but sneer. Activate Plan B, serve him a little appetizer. Under the artificial reefs outside Future Island, I had long planted dozens of M-bombs disguised as rocks. Now they were all activated. When number 7's ice road extended into this sea area, the micro-ice spikes under the ice just happened to touch those reefs. Detonate. I raised my hand and pressed the button. There was no earth-shaking explosion, only invisible rings of energy suddenly spreading through the deep sea. The ice road under number 7's feet began to crack from the middle, then shattered into powder. With no support under him, he fell straight toward the sea. But I knew very well this little trick could not hurt him. A piece of floating ice formed under his feet again, letting him stand steadily. He stopped all movement and raised his head, as if across thousands of miles. He was looking right at me. He should know this was only my warning. On the global public screen, the spectators instantly cried out. Number 23, what happened? The ice road broke. Number 5, that's number 99's counterattack. Interesting. This is too interesting. Number 7 did not dare rush forward rashly again. He stopped on the sea surface and plunged both hands into the water. Before long, a colossal thing slowly rose from the sea before him. It was a giant whale made entirely of seawater and ice crystals. The giant whale's size was bigger than my largest cruise ship. It let out a roar so loud it hurt the ears, raising overwhelming waves in an instant. Number 7 stood atop the giant whale, like a king commanding the sea god. He was obviously showing off his power. Expressionless, I stared at the screen before me. Nuclear submarine, listen. Lock onto the ice crystal whale. Load torpedoes, prepare to launch. Launch order issued. Under the sea, the nuclear submarine hidden like a ghost opened its torpedo tubes. Several torpedoes instantly left the submarine, dragging long white trails through the scalding water, rushing straight toward the ice crystal whale. On the global public screen, the spectators' messages flew by like crazy. Number 23, he really has a nuclear submarine. What a madman. Number 5, modern weapons against powers. Now, this is going to be a show. Number 7 stood on the whale's head, as if sensing something wrong underwater. The giant whale beneath him immediately roared. Its enormous body suddenly sank downward, trying to dive into the deep sea and dodge. Unfortunately, it was too late. The torpedoes were far faster than he thought. There was no sky-splitting fireball, only a series of dull explosions rising from the seabed. The massive ice crystal whale began to rupture from within. Countless cracks instantly crawled over its body. The next second, it exploded apart, becoming billions of ice shards and clouds of steaming water. The violent blast churned up a huge vortex in the sea. Everything around it was swept inside. Number 7's figure vanished into the white steam. I did not relax my guard at all. The sonar system continued tracking the target's life signal. Report, Master. The target signal disappeared. No, it has appeared again. Position 30 degrees northeast. Distance 500 meters. The steam slowly cleared. Number 7 reappeared on the sea surface. He stood on a small piece of floating ice. His face was a little pale, but he was not injured at all. He stared fixedly toward Future Island. For the first time, a grave look appeared on his face. Through the forced communication channel, he spoke to me. Conventional weapons are useless against me. Is that so? Then why did you stop? I immediately redirected a satellite and zoomed the lens in as far as possible. I could clearly see the hand he had shoved into the water earlier was trembling slightly. Controlling such a massive ice construct and taking a torpedo shock head-on must have cost him a huge amount of power. I could not help smiling. So your so-called divine power isn't endless? Number 7 did not answer. He silently withdrew his hand. He no longer tried to brute force it, but changed his method. He raised both hands flat, palms down toward the sea. With his position as the center, the sea surface for several kilometers around began freezing rapidly, visible to the naked eye, the boiling hot sea water. hissed loudly, then quickly fell silent. In moments, it froze into ice. The ice layer grew thicker and kept spreading outward. He wanted to turn the sea directly into a frozen continent. Number 23. What is he doing? Is he freezing the sea to walk across? Number 45. That's insane. Creating a glacier inside the sun furnace? I instantly understood number 7's plan. He was not simply freezing the sea to walk over. He wanted to change the area's microclimate. A large ice sheet would absorb massive heat, lowering the sea surface temperature and creating dense sea fog. With thick fog blocking me, my optical surveillance would basically become useless. Then he could use the fog to silently sneak onto the island. Activate the seabed microwave array, target the ice layer forming ahead. Around future island seabed, devices long disguised as reefs were instantly activated, and visible microwave radiation began heating the bottom of the ice layer like crazy. Number 7 formed glaciers very quickly, but I melted the ice far faster. The newly formed ice rapidly thinned from below, then melted, turning back into boiling seawater in an instant. The ultimate clash of ice and fire created an incredibly spectacular miracle on the sea surface. One side was a frozen polar land, the other a boiling sea of scorching waves. Number 7's expression grew uglier. This pure energy tug-of-war was draining him far too much. As for me, I only had to move my fingers and press buttons. My power came from 5 underground nuclear plants, basically inexhaustible. Number 7 had clearly realized this too. He stopped this purely wasteful contest, this struggle. His heavy breathing came through the channel. Do you only know how to hide like a rat inside your shell, too afraid to come out? Dealing with you doesn't require me personally, Mr. Hunter. You don't have much time left. Only 20 hours remain. I was deliberately provoking him, making him lose his cool completely. A crazed beast is always easier to handle than a calm hunter. Number 7 was indeed enraged by me. He stopped competing in energy consumption and raised his hand again. This time, his target was not the sea, but the sky above. The vicious sun was roasting the earth. Number 7's ability actually pulled in the thin moisture high above. Under his control, the moisture rapidly condensed in the sky, eventually forming an enormous, crystal-clear ice mirror. That ice mirror was like a satellite floating in the sky, slowly adjusting its angle. My heart suddenly sank. On the global chat, number 5 also saw something was wrong. Number 5, what is he doing? Why make a mirror in the sky? Number 23, wait, at that angle, he's focusing sunlight. That's right, he was focusing sunlight. He wanted to use the sun in the sky to turn that huge ice mirror into a perfect converging lens. He gathered sunlight over tens of thousands of square kilometers into a single destructive beam, and the target of that beam was the main satellite antenna array that extended from my underground fortress to the surface. That was my eye. It was the core hub controlling my global satellite network. Once it was destroyed, I would become completely blind and deaf. Activate emergency defense. All laser weapons, aim at the ice mirror in the sky, fire immediately. The laser turrets on the island, disguised as trees and rocks, rose one after another. High-energy laser beams shot straight into the sky, but number 7 had already prepared. On the mirror surface, a thicker layer of ice armor formed instantly. At the same time, it began spinning at high speed. The laser beams hit it, but only melted shallow pits, unable to destroy it completely. But that destructive beam had already fully formed. Like a sort of judgment from heaven, it stabbed straight toward my antenna array. Move the antenna array immediately. Retract them all underground. Too late, master. The energy density of this light beam is too high. The heat shields won't last even 3 seconds. I stared at the beam falling rapidly on the screen. For the first time, I felt this was a little troublesome. Boom, a blinding white light flashed. All the screens in the monitoring room instantly turned snowy white. The main surveillance feed cut out at once. A piercing alarm rang through the entire underground fortress. Report, master. The main satellite antenna has been completely destroyed. Our connection to the global satellite network has been cut off. I had completely lost my eyes. The world chat instantly erupted in cheers. Player 23, beautifully done. Take him down directly. Player 45, boss no, 7 is mighty. Let's see him act arrogant now. No, 7's voice sounded in the communication channel, carrying the smugness of someone sure of victory. Now we are finally standing on the same starting line. Next time. I leaned back in my chair and slowly let out a long breath. I had to admit, that strike was truly brilliant. What he destroyed wasn't just my antenna. It was also the psychological advantage I had always relied on to control the situation. I raised my hand and turned off the piercing alarm. Has the backup communication system been activated? Report, master. The deep-sea optical cable communication system has been activated. We are attempting to connect to our backup servers in Germany and America. How long until we're connected? Estimated time, 6 hours, 6 hours. During this hunting hour, that much time was enough to decide life or death. I looked at the pitch-black main screen and instead became completely calm. No, 7, you think destroying my eyes means I can't deal with you? No, 7, at least you can no longer look down on me from above like some god. He had already begun moving. Without satellite surveillance, I had no idea which direction he would come from. He was like a ghost lurking in the darkness, able to deliver a fatal blow at any moment. Activate the final phase of the Labyrinth Protocol, hang Jofurin's corpse at Pier 1. Yes, master, along Future Island's coastline, all the lights went out. The whole island instantly fell into dead silence. Only Pier 1 was lit by a lonely, pale spotlight. Beneath the light, Jofurin's charred corpse, purified by high heat, was hung high in the air. When the wind blew, it swayed gently, looking just like a scarecrow. A scarecrow filled with malice and warning. I was betting that no, 7 was a smart man, and an extremely proud one. He would never choose a sneaky ambush. He would come straight in from the front, through the front gate I had prepared for him. Because what he wanted was not just victory. He wanted complete and utter conquest. Time passed second by second. The atmosphere in the underground fortress became unbearably oppressive. I turned on all surveillance inside the island. Robot dogs and combat robots stood like silent statues, spread across every passage and every corner of the island. This underground fortress was as solid as iron, but for the first time, I lost my absolute confidence. Suddenly, from the direction of Pier 2, there came a faint abnormal sound. I immediately switched the surveillance feed. The image was almost pitch black, but the thermal imaging system still caught a rapidly moving figure. He actually used a diversion tactic. The corpse at Pier 1 was nothing but a feint. The real place he wanted to land was Pier 2. All combat units, gather at Pier 2 immediately. Activate the electric grid, seal all exits from Pier 2. I had still underestimated how cautious he was. He had never intended to enter my fortress at all. He stood in the open space at Pier 2, pressing both hands hard against the ground. Bone-chilling cold spread wildly outward through the earth. This was not an ordinary attack. He was freezing the ground of the entire island. That madman actually wanted to freeze all of Future Island solid from its foundations upward. Activate the geothermal defense system. The heating pipes buried beneath the island instantly began operating. Scalding steam sprayed from the cracks in the ground, desperately blocking the invasion of cold. But no, 7's power was stronger than I had expected. The ground began to shake violently, huge cracks spread wildly across the surface. For the first time, my underground fortress groaned under the strain. If this continued, before he even broke in, the whole island would be torn apart by him first. I could not keep defending passively like this. I opened a communication channel that had been sealed for a long time. Activate Project Eden, activation confirmed, boss. We have waited far, far too long for this day. From the other end of the line came an old yet excited voice. The person speaking was the leader of the top scientists I had secretly sent to the underground shelter. Are the agents ready? Everything is ready. As long as the target enters Eden, we guarantee he will see true heaven. I stared at the figure on the surveillance feed, like a demon god trying to freeze the entire island. I slowly said, no, 7, tired after playing for so long? I prepared a big gift for you. Dare to come and take it? I sent a map directly to his forced communication system. Only one place was marked on the map, the very center of Future Island. It was the most luxurious glass greenhouse I had built on the surface as camouflage. I had named it Eden. No, 7 stopped destroying the island. He floated in midair, cold mist swirling around him. Like a silent god on the world chat, the viewers were even more nervous than I was. He stopped. What did No 99 send him? Player 5, a map. It marks a place called Eden. That name sounds unlucky. Player 45, this has to be a trap. Boss, no, 7, don't go. Of course, no. 7 knew it was a trap. We were both hunters, able to sense the same danger on each other. But he had no other choice. Time was not on his side. Every extra minute he spent on this island reduced his chances of winning. His low voice came through the communication channel. I accept your challenge. The ice beneath his feet instantly melted. His whole body turned into a streak of white light, rushing toward the spot marked on my map. There was no hesitation at all. I immediately switched to the island's internal surveillance. He was taking exactly the route I had planned for him, the most direct route. Along the way, all combat robots and automated turrets retracted underground. The entire island was like a gate thrown open for him. On the world chat, Player 5 sent a string of exclamation marks. Player 5, what is he doing? A duel? No, 99 is just an ordinary person. Is he crazy? I am not crazy. I am simply giving my honored guest the highest standard of hospitality. Before long, no, Seven's figure appeared at the entrance of the glass greenhouse. Outside Eden was the insane scorching heat of the blazing sun furnace. Yet this huge glass building looked like an unreal illusion. Inside the greenhouse, everything was lush and green. Exotic flowers and rare plants were in full bloom. There were even butterflies flitting among the flowers. Compared with the scorched and ruined world outside, it seemed completely out of place. No, Seven stood at the entrance and did not enter immediately. He carefully observed the movements around him. His powerful ability allowed him to sense even the slightest temperature change. He could clearly feel there were no traps inside Eden, no weapons, and no ambushes. There was only constant temperature, humid air, and the fragrance of life. And that was the most terrifying trap of all. Lin Yunxi, come out. His voice echoed before the empty greenhouse. I did not respond. He waited at the entrance for a while. At last, he stepped inside. The moment he entered the greenhouse, the glass door behind him silently closed. He had been locked inside the most beautiful cage in the world. The soft lights in the greenhouse instantly came on. Countless fine streams of mist sprayed out from every direction. They moistened the delicate petals, while making the entire space feel dreamlike. No, Seven took a deep breath. For a moment, relief appeared on his face. Outside, using his ability at high intensity to resist the heat had consumed far too much of his strength. The environment here made him feel unprecedented comfort. He completely lowered his guard. Through the communication channel, I said my first words to him. Welcome to my garden. No, Seven's body suddenly stiffened. He tried to activate his ability, but found his body empty inside. That innate, icy power as natural as breathing had actually vanished. He lowered his head and looked at his hands. For the first time, panic appeared on his face. What exactly did you do? I told you long ago that I had prepared a big gift for you. Do you like it? That mist was not ordinary water at all. It was a nerve suppressant, specially formulated for him by my team of scientists. This substance was colorless and odorless. As long as it entered through breathing or skin contact, it could instantly break down the special genes inside an ability user's body. It would not cause any pain. Instead, it created an illusion of extreme relaxation and pleasure, as if returning to a mother's embrace. The so-called heaven was actually hell. No, Seven wanted to resist, but his body no longer obeyed him. He staggered back a few steps and leaned against a huge plant, gasping for breath. The more he breathed, the more suppressant he inhaled, the more powerless his body became. On the world chat, the viewers also, through Seven's perspective, saw this eerie scene. Player 23, what's going on? What happened to the boss? Player 5, I'm afraid his ability disappeared. Calmly, I replied on the public screen. Nothing is impossible. Welcome to witness how modern technology slays a god. He collapsed to the ground, looking at the beautiful, unreal plants around him. His eyes were full of unwillingness. No, Seven, you win. The game is not over yet. No, Seven. My holographic projection slowly appeared in front of him. I looked down at him from above, as if looking at a perfect trophy. No, Seven suddenly laughed. There was no despair in that smile, only release and madness. No, Seven, Lin Yunxi, do you really think you've won? He used the last of his strength to press his hand against the huge plant beside him. That was not a plant at all. It was a disguised cooling pipe for the underground nuclear power station. My heart suddenly jolted. I really can't create cold anymore, but I can absorb heat. He wasn't trying to destroy my nuclear power station. He was reversing his own ability. He had turned himself into a black hole that only absorbed heat. Outside Eden, the blazing sun furnace's endless heat, enough to melt steel, finally found an outlet. The wild heat flowed through Seven's body, pouring endlessly into the cooling pipeline. A piercing alarm instantly rang through the entire underground fortress. Warning, reactor No.1 temperature is rising abnormally. Warning, cooling system overloaded. Pressure is rising wildly. Estimated 30 seconds until the core reaches critical point. On the screen, the numbers showing reactor temperature were rising at a terrifying speed. No, Seven was laughing madly. He wanted to use his own life to ignite a bomb for me powerful enough to destroy the whole island. He wanted to drag me down with him. Everyone on the world chat went insane. Player 23, the nuclear power station is going to explode. Player 5, run, we can't run at all. Player 45, we're all going to die here together. I stared fixedly at the screen, at the red numbers jumping wildly. No, Seven's mad laughter came through the forced communication channel, stabbing hard into my eardrums. He couldn't beat me. so he chose to flip the entire chessboard. My hands flew across the control panel, trying to forcibly cut off the energy supply, even activating the emergency plan to sink the entire reactor into the Mariana Trench, but it was already too late. The speed of heat transfer far exceeded the execution speed of every mechanical command. 3, 2. Just as the countdown was about to reach 0, the entire world suddenly froze. The piercing alarm stopped abruptly. The numbers that had been jumping wildly on the screen froze on the final value. No, 7's mad expression of mutual destruction froze into a strange picture. The cold, emotionless system prompt resounded through my underground fortress, and at the same time through the minds of all surviving players. Warning: malicious disruption of game progress detected. Mutual destruction does not comply with the sole victor rule. Player No, 7 has violated the rules. As soon as the system's voice fell, No, 7's body suddenly trembled. The terrifying heat that he had madly absorbed into his body seemed to be dragged out by an invisible giant hand. It turned into visible red streams of air and rolled back into the cooling pipeline. The reactor temperature dropped even faster than it had risen, instantly returning to normal. No, 7 collapsed on the ground, his body twitching violently. There was not a trace of color on his face. He was not dead yet. The system seemed unwilling to let him die so easily. Rule violator No, 7 will be stripped of game eligibility. He will be made into a specimen to warn all players. A gray beam of light descended from the sky and completely enveloped No, 7. Within that light, his body slowly turned into a gray-white statue. His face still held the expression of defiance and shock from that final moment. On the world public screen, No, 7's avatar did not turn gray. Instead, it changed into a strange offline blue color. And after it appeared a chilling label, Specimen. He became the first exhibit in this bloody game. Hunt mode has been forcibly terminated due to the target's violation. Inside the glass greenhouse, the plant scorched by the heat instantly revived, as if nothing had happened. Only that human-shaped statue stood silently among the flowers, reminding me of everything that had just happened. I leaned back in my chair and let out a long breath. For the first time, I felt that the game system itself was the most terrifying enemy. It was no referee at all, it was an absolute dictator. After a full minute of dead silence, the world public screen exploded. No, 23, a specimen. He was turned into a specimen. The system actually intervened. No, 5, that's even scarier than killing him outright. They finally understood. No matter how powerful a player's ability was, before the system, it was only a toy that could be taken back at any time. And I understood something else. What the system wanted was entertainment. It would not allow anyone to end this game early. Just then, the system's voice rang out again. Remaining players for game progress is too slow. Activating final protocol, dual arena, refusal to teleport will be treated as a violation. My pupils shrank sharply. Dual arena? It was going to throw all of us into the same cage. My greatest advantage, Future Island's absolute defense, was about to become useless. On the world public screen, the other 3 players' reactions shifted from fear of the system into a twisted frenzy. No, 23, dual arena? We're going to be teleported together. No, 45, no, 99's turtle shell is useless now. No, 5, 24 hours of final preparation. No, 99, wash your neck and wait. They no longer had to find a way to break through my island. The system had dragged me out of my fortress for them. I watched the screen where those 3 clowns kept shouting and did not reply. I switched the surveillance feed and looked at Eden, at the lifelike statue of No, 7. Then I smiled. 24 hours, to them, that was their final preparation time. But to me, that was already enough. I opened the highest authority console and contacted my team of scientists. The ARC project can begin. Since I'm going to the dual arena, I should bring the right toys. From the other end of the line came the chief scientist's voice, barely suppressing his excitement. Boss, all the toys have been calibrated. I guarantee the remaining players will experience true despair. I ended the communication and pulled up a brand new blueprint. It was a streamlined exoskeleton armor that covered the entire body. Its energy core was directly connected to one of my small backup nuclear plants. Start manufacturing the materials. Use the highest grade stock we have. Within 24 hours, I want to see the finished product. A cold mechanical voice responded. Command confirmed. Heaven's Judgment armor manufacturing initiated. I watched countless mechanical arms on the screen begin operating at high speed, feeding pieces of special alloy with metallic luster into the 3D printing matrix. The way war was fought was about to change completely. Since I could no longer be the Demon King in the fortress, I would step onto the field myself and become the only Grim Reaper in the arena. For the remaining time, I did not rest for even a moment. I pulled up every file on No, 23, No, 45, and No, 5, No, 23's ability, sonic detection and attacks. Weakness, high-frequency electromagnetic interference. No, 45's ability, rock transformation. His physical defense was extremely strong, but he feared instant shifts between extreme heat and cold. No, 5's ability, plant manipulation. In places with vegetation, he was nearly invincible. Once separated from soil, his power would be greatly weakened. Targeting each of their weaknesses, I began loading different weapon modules. Mini electromagnetic pulse grenades, hot-cold frequency ray guns, and a high-concentration, high-potency defoliant. I even prepared a gift for myself. It was a drug my scientists had synthesized. It could instantly overdraw vitality and push bodily functions to their limits for a short time. I named it Burnout. I did not want to use it, but there were no rules in the arena. Only life and death. I had to make every possible preparation. Time passed second by second, when only 1 hour remained on the countdown. A suit of pitch black Heaven's Judgment armor, with dark red energy lines flowing through its joints, stood silently before me. I reached out and gently touched its cold metal shell. From today onward, I would no longer be the survivor hiding behind screens. I would be the walking apocalypse. I stepped into the armor. The mechanical structure closed automatically, letting out a series of grating clicks. A white flash filled my vision. I felt my body wrapped by an irresistible force. The feeling of weightlessness lasted less than a second. When my feet touched solid ground again, I was in a completely unfamiliar place. It was an enormous circular stone structure. Broken stands and snapped stone pillars all spoke of its former glory. It was the Colosseum of ancient Rome. The system had actually teleported us here. The scorching heat of the solar furnace still roasted the earth. But inside the Colosseum, there seemed to be an invisible force holding the temperature within a tolerable range. Opposite me, 3 figures appeared almost at the same time. No, 23 and No, 45 stood together, staring at me warily. No, 5 stood on the other side. From cracks in the stone beneath his feet, green vines had already begun to emerge. They all saw the black armor on my body, radiating oppressive force. No, 45's skin quickly turned to stone. He taunted me in a dull, rumbling voice. No, 99, without your turtle shell, you still dare come out? You think putting on a tin can make you invincible? I ignored him completely. Beneath my visor, the retinal display had already locked onto their life signals. Scan complete, targets locked, weapon systems unlocked. The system's cold voice echoed over the arena. Final stage, deathmatch begins. Rule, survive until the end. The instant the system finished speaking, No, 5 struck first. The vines under his feet surged like frenzied serpents, sweeping toward me from every direction. The ground cracked open instantly. Countless thorny brambles burst from the earth, forming an inescapable net that meant to devour me completely. No, 23 and No, 45 were not idle either. No, 45 let out a furious roar and transformed into a several-ton rock giant, charging toward me with heavy steps. No, 23 unleashed an invisible sonic shockwave that spread outward from him. The air was torn apart, releasing an ear-piercing shriek. It was a piercing sonic attack powerful enough to shatter steel. From the very beginning, the 3 of them chose to join forces. They wanted to use their strongest attacks in an instant and crush me, armor and all, into pieces. There were no other players left on the world public screen. This battle had no spectators, only the 4 of us, and the system high above. Facing their thunderous combined attack, I stood motionless. Just before the vines could touch me, I raised my left arm. With a flash, a visible blue electromagnetic pulse ring suddenly exploded outward with me at the center. The sonic wave released by No, 23 was completely neutralized and dispersed. The moment it touched the pulse ring, he himself let out a scream, clutched his ears, and fell to his knees. Blood poured from all 7 orifices. His brain had been scrambled by an instant overload of electromagnetic waves. Player No, 23 has died. And the vines rushing madly toward me also seemed to lose all their moisture the moment they touched the pulse, quickly withering, charring, and turning into black ash. No, 5's expression changed drastically. He tried to control plants farther away, but discovered that his ability seemed to have been cut off by something. The electromagnetic pulse also disrupted his bioelectric signals. Only No, 45 remained. As a rock giant, his physical defense was astonishing. The electromagnetic pulse did not affect him much. His enormous fist, carrying the force of an army, came smashing down before me. I could even feel the fierce gust brought by that force. I slowly raised my right arm. I did not choose to block. Instead, I spread my 5 fingers. In my palm, the energy of a microreactor was instantly activated. A ray condensed to the extreme, combining ultra-high heat with ultra-low cold, shot out silently. The ray struck the rock giant squarely in the chest. There was no explosion, only a soft hiss. No, 45's indestructible rocky body began to form. Spider-web-like cracks from the point of impact. On one side was extreme heat above 3,000 degrees. On the other was extreme cold near absolute zero. The two extreme forces collided wildly inside his body. The physical principle of thermal expansion and contraction at that moment displayed its most terrifying destructive power. No, 45 only had time to let out a despairing roar. The next second, his huge stone body exploded apart, turning into shards of rock flying through the air. Player No, 45 has died. Less than 10 seconds had passed from the start to the end of the fight. The entire arena fell into deathly silence. Only I and No, 5 remained in the distance. The vines that had just sprouted under his feet all shrank back underground as if afraid. He looked at me, his face filled with undisguised fear. Devil, you're a devil. I walked toward him step by step. Each step of the heaven's judgment armor rang with a heavy metallic sound, like the footsteps of death itself. Now only the two of us are left. My voice came through the loudspeaker, cold and emotionless. No, 5's legs went weak. He nearly dropped to his knees. The moment that blue pulse appeared, the plant manipulation he was so proud of became as fragile as paper. Even No, 45's supposedly unbreakable rock body had not forced me back even half a step. Don't come over here. I surrender. I quit. Isn't there a surrender option in the rules? His voice trembled violently, filled with unconcealable despair. I stopped on the spot. On the screen inside my visor, his heart rate curve was skyrocketing wildly. The only rule is to survive until the end. And the ones who make the rules have never been the players. My voice through the loudspeaker echoed around the empty coliseum. I raised my right arm. The energy core in my palm lit up once more. No, 5 squeezed his eyes shut, waiting for death to arrive. But at that very moment, that ice-cold system notification rang out across heaven and earth again. Warning, combat has become unbalanced. Entertainment value is severely insufficient. Activating emergency correction protocol. The system will rebalance the battle. The light on my arm was extinguished by an invisible force. The weapon systems of the Heaven's Judgment armor were also forcibly locked. My movement froze on the spot. No, 5 also opened his eyes in stunned disbelief. Player No, 99 relies excessively on external forces, severely damaging game diversity. Player No, 5's ability has not been fully displayed. To ensure fairness and spectacle in the final duel, resetting battlefield environment. As soon as the words ended, the entire ancient Roman Colosseum began shaking violently. The hard stone floor beneath our feet suddenly softened like melting chocolate, sinking downward. In the blink of an eye, it became fertile black soil. The broken stands around us were instantly torn apart by wildly growing giant vines. In moments, they turned into towering trees that pierced toward the sky. Above the dome, the never-setting sun was sealed off by a dense canopy, leaving only scattered patches of light. The air instantly became damp and cold, filled with the smell of earth and vegetation. In barely more than 10 seconds, the arena under the blazing sun had become a primitive jungle where daylight could not reach. And in this jungle, No, 5 was the undisputed king. He felt the surging vitality coming from the earth beneath his feet. The fear on his face vanished instantly. In its place was a confidence bordering on madness. Countless green spakes of light rose from the soil and poured into his body all at once. The wounds on his body healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. His entire aura soared rapidly. No, 5 burst into loud laughter, his voice full of the joy of escaping death.